joining us today. And for everyone who's watching, welcome to the Bring Out podcast. And I'm very excited to introduce Vianna Fornville, a civil rights activist and award winning poet. So, Vianna, feel free to introduce yourself. And that obviously doesn't just have to be your accomplishments, but who you are as a person.
I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So, like you said, I'm Vianna Fornville. I am a poet, an activist. I'm also a cheerleader at Chapel Hill High School, where I'm a junior. And I'd say some accomplishments that are really important to me are my Polly Murray Award for Youth and hum- uh, the humanitarian poet award, poetry award. But outside of my awards, I work a lot with the Chapel Hill Carbell NAACP Youth Council and the North Carolina NAACP Youth and College Division, where I am the secretary. And I am also one of the presidents for the Chapel Hill High School Youth Leadership Institute, which is a club at Chapel Hill, and it's actually at all four high schools in our district, that instills leadership skills in underserved um, youth, specifically like minorities, and we just do a lot of service projects and a lot of like leadership training. So yeah, a lot of my work focuses on equity, and education, but I also like to have fun. So I'm a cheerleader. I'm one of the cheer captains, and yeah.
Great, thank you so much for introducing yourself. And for those of you who are new to the podcast, I'm Jumana Yusuf. I'm the host, and I'm a student based in North Carolina. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So, I really want to start from the very beginning of your journey. So, was there like a moment or an experience in your early childhood that might have served as that stepping stone for you to begin pursuing poetry and civil rights?
I would say COVID. So I know that wasn't like super early childhood, but that was where I really started like developing like a consciousness of the world around me and how like equity was playing such a big deal in politics and in my life. There were two separate incidents. So the first thing that happened was the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests in Chapel Hill. I got to be one of the kids at the forefront of it alongside my sister. And I was only in fifth grade, I want to say. So it was a really big deal to me. It opened my eyes up a lot. There was a lot happening in Chapel Hill at that time. We had just gotten the memorial for the Chapel Hill Nine, and so that was a huge deal. And this was also following the events with Silent Sam on UNC's campus. So just a lot of equity work to be done in my town. So that really introduced me to like, oh, how do you plan a protest? How do you get the community involved? All of that, all while being, safe with COVID procedures and all that. And then for poetry, this was also during COVID. I did a poetry workshop, and that workshop led me to create the poem See Me, which is the poem that I won the award for with Orange County. And I just learned a lot about how to express my emotions through poetry, especially since it was really hard to be expressive during COVID.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm really curious to know if there's anybody in your family specifically who kind of inspired you to join the protests.
I would most definitely say my sister. Well, my sister and my mom actually. But my sister, I've grown up seeing her do the work that I knew I wanted to do. I've seen her be so motivated about helping kids and about creating a better world. And with my mom, she was the one who really helped push me along. She was the one who first registered me for the Chapel Hill Carbell NAACP Youth Council. And both of them I've seen do so much work for youth and just try to make the world so much more equitable. But my sister, I've been able to see her do it when she was in high school. And so with me being in high school, I'm really able to like follow those steps, but also do things my own way. And they both inspire me to take a career path where I can still do equity work. So for example, my sister, she went to college and got a degree in psychology because she wanted to learn more about how youth minds develop, especially how black and brown brains develop. And then my mom, she got a degree in criminal justice, but currently she is working with social services. That's where her job is. But she's also on the Chapel Hill Carborough Board of Education. So they both have very different careers, but they both have a very similar message that they want to do through their careers. So they're both very inspiring to me.
Thank you for sharing that. My older sister as well. I mean, I feel like having older siblings, you really just as you grow up, you watch them like make all these
Yeah.
change impacts, and you like want to implement that as well.
hmm
Were there any mentors outside of your family who kind of helped shape you both personally and professionally?
Most definitely. My biggest mentor is Miss Benita Mason Hogan. She runs a program that I interned with over the summer called the James Cate Scholars. And she has taught me so much about professionalism and a lot about college. She's taught me about scholarships and test prep, but she's also taught me about the work. So like equity and justice. She's a historian and she really helped me tap into history, especially Chapel Hill history. That's what the James Cate Scholars do. So I learned a lot through her and just I would say one of my biggest takeaways from her is to be myself and to use like the fierceness that I know I have inside of me while also maintaining professionalism. That is something that she has mastered.
For sharing that. I feel like having mentors nowadays is so important, especially like we're living in this era of gatekeeping, and just this like
Yes.
toxic culture that like, you can't be a beginner. You have to have it all figured out.
hmm
Having mentors is like it's a network, it's guidance, it's support.
Yes,
Um,
most definitely heavy on the networking. She has taught me so much about networking. I've got so many connections through her. But I do think the culture is really toxic, especially in Chapel Hill. The gatekeeping culture, it's very hard to feel like you have a place when everyone is trying to take up that place, you know?
and also, as I was looking through your experience, I also saw that you were part of the Disney Dreamers Academy class of 2025.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's just like an amazing accomplishment because I know how like competitive the program is. I
Thank
feel
you.
it's 100 people every year. So I would just like to understand how that experience shaped you, like what kind of, programs or workshops you did while you were there.
It's very ironic that you bring that up today because today is a year since I found out that I got in. So,
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, the academy is great. I most definitely recommend it to anyone who can apply. While I was there, I did a lot of workshops about networking and about how I can be a better leader in my community. When you're applying, or no, I'm sorry, when you before you go, so while you're preparing to go, Disney will reach out and ask you what careers you're interested in, and they will take that data and they will set up their workshops based off of that. So the workshop that I got put in was called Community Engagement and Service Leadership. And so that's what I mainly learned about while I was there. And that was about a 4 hour workshop. So it was all day, very long, but it was so informative. I learned about how I have to pour back into the community that poured into me growing up, and how if I want to be a servant, like a servant leader, then I owe that to them, and that as a young person, people want to get my opinion because I am the future. But also, young people, we are the current. We don't just have to wait until we grow up to start changing the world. We have that power now. And there's so many resources. We have to take advantage of so many different opportunities that we get so that we can start changing the world. But outside of that workshop, I also had a lot about confidence. So confidence was something that the academy looks for in their applicants, but they also want to grow on top of the confidence that you already have and turn that confidence into something that you can bring into the professional world. So we learned a lot about that. A phrase that we heard a lot was walk it how you talk it. So don't just talk about the work that you want to do, but also do it, implement it, and have the confidence to do so.
thank you for sharing that. I mean, there's so many opportunities, that are out there for youth, for young people. And, most of the time we're not taking advantage of that.
hmm
Um, and for the Disney Dreamers Academy, what was the application like when you were going through it?
So the application is completely essay based. I know a lot of people would think like with that type of program, they ask you for your grades or test scores, but there's none of that. So there were two large essays. I think it was about 1,200 characters, and then there were two short essays, and they were about 600 characters. And then there were two questions just trying to get to know you as a person. So you complete all of that, and then you have to fill out some information about your school, your family, and then you send that in, and then you'll get an envelope in the mail, and there'll be a folder with a bunch of forms that you have to fill out. And when you fill out all those forms, and this is like once you get accepted, you'll send those back to Disney, and then you'll receive a questionnaire, which is kind of like an interview, but it's written. And I'll ask you just more questions to get to know you and just about like the type of careers that you want to do and your experiences like with Disney. And yeah, so the application, I wouldn't say it's super hard. I would say you need to be intentional about what you say in it. Very intentional about how you present yourself in it. I know a lot of people take the route of kind of making themselves seem smaller than what they are, but that is not a good idea. You need to make yourself seem as confident as you are, and you also need to show that you are who you are, you know? Most definitely showing a lot of personality and just having the confidence to even want to think about applying to something like that. Because the academy, like they understand that it's a big deal. So you have to be confident and you have to believe that you're going to get in because they can see through that in your essays. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And just building off of all this experience that you have, right? Like you went to protests, you went to the Disney Dreamers Academy. I also heard that you were on the Bridging the Gap radio show.
hmm
So, I mean, through all these experiences, where do you see yourself, the next 5 years after college or during college?
This is something that I've really been like looking into. I've been trying to kind of set up how I want to do college and how I want to be after college. Um, I want to go into political science, and I'm thinking about either journalism as a minor or psychology as a minor. I either want to be a political journalist or I'm not necessarily sure what the phrase would be, but someone who works on like people's campaigns. After looking at Zohran Mamdani's campaign and seeing how there were a lot of powerful women who helped get him into his office, I that kind of opened up a door for me. So I just want to explore that more. But after college, those are the careers I'm thinking about. I think I wanted to pursue like a master's degree. And what I'm not necessarily sure. I don't really know. I'm trying to more so focus on the work that I can do right now. I feel like the culture in my town is very easy to get caught up in what you want to do after college and feeling like you have to have that all figured out. But I know that I don't. I've seen people who go to college with one major or go in undecided and do something completely different. So I'm not trying to think about that too much, but I know that political science is most definitely what I want to do. Something political.
And what advice would you give to, maybe our generation or the next generation who, might be interested in, civil rights and poetry, but they don't know where to start?
I would say look at issues that are happening in your area first. For me, an issue that I think is huge and more people need to talk about is the racial opportunity gap in Chapel Hill Carbondale City schools and how we have the second largest one in the country. So that's an issue that I think is really important. That's my why. You need to figure out your why. And you can do that by going to local municipality meetings, so your town council, your school board, things like that. Or you can just do a little bit of research and see what like some statistics in your area are. Like Orange County has the biggest wealth gap in the state. So that's another issue that I had in my area. And then I would find someone who is either an expert on this topic or has been doing a lot of research on this topic, an adult preferably, and start working with them, start getting mentored underneath them. That person for me would be Miss Danita. And together kind of just start getting the word out about the issue that you are really like focused on. And I think it's okay to have multiple issues that you really want to work on and fix, but don't overwhelm yourself with thinking that you have to fix all of them because that's just unrealistic. And just focus on one that you really are really passionate about. And find more programs that are like national programs that you can learn about that issue at. So for me, that'd be the Disney Dreamers Academy. And just use all of these different resources and bring them back to your area. And when you start implementing them, you can start a club at your school about this issue to get more awareness and get more people in your fight. Because that's something that's really important. You have to have multiple people in the fight, or else nothing is going to happen. No change will be made. So yeah, once you get more students your age involved, and once you get the community knowing about it, that's how you'll really be able to stir up some change.
So we're continuing that path of, mentorship, of seeking that guidance and support.
Hmm.
Um, and now that you've had all of this, wealth of experience, what advice would you give to your younger self?
That's a good question. Um, Little me struggled a lot with confidence, and I struggled a lot with feeling comfortable in my identity. Being a black girl, that's not that doesn't fit the status quo. Like um I do pretty good in class. I feel like sometimes I'm considered a token black girl, and I really hate that narrative because it's incorrect. And I I like doing work for my community. I like helping to change my community, but I don't like feeling like I have to represent my community because that's just not right. So I would say for my younger self, be you, always be you, no matter where you are or who you're around. And don't let people who don't look like you try to push you into a box.
That is such an important lesson. I mean, even right now in like the K-12 educational system, there is this culture of like peer pressure, and you have to
Yeah,
conform to like what everybody else is doing.
yeah,
Um, so it's like when you stand out, you feel like kind of an outcast.
most definitely.
So as a civil rights activist and a poet, what are some of the most difficult parts of your work?
I would say trying to write poetry that I have when I'm writing poetry, I feel like I have to put my emotions as like a metaphor, you know? Like I like poetry because I can describe every single little detail. And so when you're reading it, like I make it so clear, so easy to understand that you just have to accept like that's the truth, you know? But sometimes it's like, well, why do I have to do that? Why do I have to make a metaphor out of every single thing that I feel and that I experience? Sometimes I just wish that I could tell someone how I feel and they would just understand. Like, I wish I could tell someone about the issues that my people are facing and they would just understand. But no, I have to write it down into a whole lot of figurative language and a whole lot of description for them to understand. It can be very frustrating. And I love poetry, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great method of communication. I just think that sometimes it shouldn't be the only method where I feel like people will understand.
That makes sense. I mean, it happens a lot with like writing as well, where it's like you're changing what you're writing so it conforms to like what you want the reader to
Yes.
understand from it. Are there any like books or resources that might have helped you on your journey that you want to recommend to people?
Um, I I personally don't like reading a lot of books in verse. Um, I do like to read, just not books in verse. That's just a preference for me. But for resources, I would say people. I have learned the best poetry methods from people. I've done a lot of like workshops that I've just seen offered. So most definitely jump on the opportunity to do a workshop, to participate in that because you never know what you'll take away from it and it can always help you. Like the first workshop I did has stuck with me for the past 5 years. And I've done workshops with the North Carolina Poet Laureate, Miss Jackie. She's phenomenal. I've done a lot of poetry workshops. I've led poetry workshops with little kids from what I've learned from those workshops. So most definitely workshop, workshop, workshop. I can't stress that enough. That's the best way I've learned. And to me, one-on-one, or not one-on-one, but being in person workshops are even better because you really get to feel that emotion. You get to feel how the room shifts from someone reading their poetry. So just emotion is such an important part of poetry. So being able to be at a workshop in person and feeling that emotion instead of having to do it through a screen, that's the best way I've been able to learn and perfect my craft.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else that you want to add before we end today's session?
I would just say, again, poetry is a great tool. It's a great communication tool. If you feel frustrated and you don't know how to say what you're feeling, you can always describe it. So poetry is a great option for when you're angry, stressed, upset, all of that. So use poetry. And also, please research like different resources in your community or even national. So, like different summer programs, different internships, all of these types of things, so that you can get as much information as possible to create the change that you want to see.
Thank you for sharing that. And we've come to the end of today's session. I don't have any more questions. You've answered all of them. So yeah, Vienna, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I hope we can see each other again soon.
Yes, most definitely.